I'm Rantasmo, and Carol needs more gay. Quick, what's your favorite Christmas movie? If you said Die Hard, then I'm, frankly, thrilled that I've reached a straight male audience. But I'm here to talk about a very different type of Christmas movie, one that just came out last year, and one that I think is destined to become a holiday classic for an entire generation of queer ladies, and a considerable number of gay guys too. I mean, it is a costume drama centered around a confident, self-possessed female character. We like those. It was also directed by a gay man, our old friend Todd Haynes. Much like another of his films, Far From Heaven, Carol is a 1950s period piece that revels in the era's aesthetics while also shedding light on its social inequities. Cate Blanchett plays the title character, a wealthy woman in the process of divorcing her husband. But for the first portion of the film, we follow Therese, a younger shop girl played by Rooney Mara. Therese and Carol become romantically involved, but things get dicey when Carol's husband Harge catches wind of the relationship and files for full custody of their daughter Rindy. Rindy is a weird name. I feel like maybe it was the 50s equivalent of Braden. Sarah Paulson also gives a really strong performance as Carol's best friend and former lover, Abby. She delivers what might be my favorite line in the movie.
I love her. I can't help you with that.
Often when I review a movie like this where the characters never actually put a label on their own sexual identity, I try to be careful not to immediately label them as gay or lesbian and erase the possibility that they might be bisexual or some other brand of queerness. But I feel pretty confident saying that this movie is meant to be specifically about lesbians. It's not just a story about women who are attracted to women. It's also about the experience of not being attracted to men and escaping unhappy relationships imposed by a heteronormative society.
Come to France with me. Let's get married.
Richard, I'm not ready for that. I can't just make myself.
This movie is based on queer author Patricia Highsmith's novel, The Price of Salt, notably her only novel about an explicitly queer female relationship. At the time, it was also one of very few lesbian novels that did not end in tragedy. In spite of the challenges that Carol and Therese face, it's strongly implied that their relationship continues past the story's conclusion. And unlike a lot of other quote-unquote Oscar bait LGBT-related stories, no one even dies. Yay! Still, it's not a completely happy ending. Carol ends up relinquishing custody of Rindy, believing it to be the best choice for her daughter and allowing Carol the freedom to be herself.
What use am I to her, to us, if I'm living against my own grain?
This is, in effect, the price of salt. Salt most likely representing Carol living her truth, as opposed to the bland, loveless, flavorless life that a sham marriage with Harge would mean for her. It's not fair or accurate to call Carol the lesbian Brokeback Mountain, but one thing they both have in common is they're both love stories that wouldn't have the same meaning or impact or even plot if they were about straight couples. This isn't just a universal love story. All relationships face obstacles, but the obstacles that Carol and Therese face are really specific to queer people. When Carol came out in theaters, a lot of critics described it as chilly or distant, but I think that's somewhat missing the point of the story. The original book communicates a lot of the characters' feelings through internal monologue and narration. That's something that doesn't always translate well to film without the use of voiceover, but thankfully the film doesn't do that. Instead, much of Carol and Therese's love story is communicated not with words, but with silent looks and expressions. Just like the film's color scheme, the way that these two characters interact with each other is muted. And it's muted out of necessity because of the era that the story takes place in. In 1950s America, being gay could easily get you arrested or institutionalized. Any sort of flirting or dating between two women or two men needed to be covert, conveyed through innuendo and nonverbal communication. That's what I think Carol is really getting at. It's a story about finding joy and passion amidst intolerable circumstances, in a world where living out loud wasn't an option. The final shots of the film are just Carol and Therese looking at one another silently. It's an unwelcome silence, forcibly imposed on them by society. But it's a silence that they've managed to subvert to their own ends, giving each other one single silent look that speaks volumes about their love for each other. It's beautiful in a way, but it's also a circumstance that we should never ever have to go back to. Because I, for one, don't plan on being silent anytime soon.